This is Talkback 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you along on this Monday, October the 28th. My, how time is flying by. Here you go. Welcome. It's our number one of Talkback for this Monday. Talkback this morning is brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. Family owned and operated, offering you gutter installation, gutter guards, and more. The number 406-240-2669, protecting the foundation of your future. Harrington Surgical Supply, where you can feel confident in their discreet and knowledgeable guidance on a multitude of products and medical supplies. By our friends at Y West Storage over at the Y on Two Smokes Way. Give them a call to find out if they have a storage unit for you. I bet they do. Call 406-510-0590 because they are making room for you. And finally, by Phillips Janitorial. With both residential and commercial cleaning, no job too big or small for Phillips. 406-260-6617.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
And it is a week and a day before it is election day, and I can tell just by Monica Tranel and her sigh of relief.
Who's counting?
All right, welcome back.
Thanks, Peter.
It is. You're on the downhill slope, I guess, is what we're calling it.
Yeah, or close to the top of the peak, or wherever you want to be.
Whatever it might be. And so you are running against Ryan Zinke, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and so
and Dennis Hayes,
yes,
Libertarian, on the ballot. So
right.
Three of us.
Thank you. All right. So tell us how it's going.
Yeah, the race is going great, and just really want to clarify for everyone that the 16 counties. I've put on thousands and thousands of miles on my minivan, talked to folks across the district, went through a transmission. Not sure if we updated you on that one. Duct tape on the front end holding it together. And snow tires are going on today, so we're going to get to the finish line here. But yeah, definitely just want to let folks know there is a real choice in this election. And I have really tried to work hard to come and meet you, talk to you where you are, tell you who I am, tell you what I will do for you in Congress, and keep it really about you. I mean, I will work for you, the people of Montana, and the choices couldn't be more stark. I mean, for me, I've worked on a housing plan. I've been here in Montana, judge us by our records. I have worked to keep your utility costs low. Ryan Zinke is getting corporate PAC money from Northwestern, and he has taken votes that will increase our utility rates. I've worked on a housing plan. I've worked to reduce housing costs and to make sure that people can get into homes here in Montana. And Ryan Zinke is a housing profiteer. He has Airbnbs. He owns property.
Now, allow me to ask. I'm going to jump in here real quick.
Okay.
Is it wrong for someone to have property and put it up for Airbnb?
No, it's not. But it has consequences for our community.
Because there are thousands of people who do it.
Well, so there are policy choices, right? And in Bozeman, they have actually passed a law that says no more Airbnb short-term rentals. In Whitefish, they have certain areas zoned for them. And in those areas, you go up there, whole streets are sitting empty. There's nobody living in there. There aren't families there. There aren't, there's just this Airbnb empty house feeling. So do we actually want houses to sit empty while our sheriff's deputies live in campers? I mean, you drive outside of Bozeman, you drive outside of Kalispell. Here in Missoula, we have people living in campers. We have kids who are waking up today and going to school from their car. And meanwhile, these houses are sitting empty and they're housing profiteers. So people are making thousands and thousands of dollars a month. In Ryan Zinke's case, he's renting one of those Airbnbs for $16,000 a month. So those are policy choices. And that's what's at stake in this election. Do you want your community to look like what it does right now, where we have campers and our, the people who are serving our community living in those campers? Or do you want families to live in our communities? That's what's at stake in this election. So
I tell you, we're up against a break, but the phone lines are open. If you have a question for Monica Tranel, she's a candidate for U.S. Congress running against Ryan Zinke. She's a Democrat. She would love to hear from you if you have a question. Hey, the lines are open. Also, you can use the KGVO app and just hit the message us button, send that over to Nick, and we will share that with Monica, who will be with us for only an hour. So if you have a question or comment, give us a call at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. We're coming right back. after this.
Dennis Bragg with the updated weather. A slight chance of rain or mixed rain and snow showers. The higher elevations early, then clouds and a chance of rain the rest of the day, only warming to the upper 40s behind that cold front that moved through late Sunday. The threat of rain or mixed rain and snow in the higher valleys with a few inches of wet snow in the passes persists overnight tonight and into Tuesday. We may also have to deal with some morning fog Tuesday and again Wednesday morning. But we shall also see some sun Tuesday, mostly sunny skies Wednesday. Still a threat of light snow in the valleys at the end of the week.
All right, the phone lines are open at 721-1290. More Monica's stretch. Okay, 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. In lieu of phone calls, I will pepper you with questions.
Go ahead.
All right, pepper. Here, maybe some salt as well. All right, let's talk. Let's talk
keep
about
it spicy.
Let's talk about housing.
Yeah,
because it is almost an entire legislative session is prepared to tackle property taxes.
Yeah.
But property values, because of the realignment and all that happened in the last couple of years, has dramatically increased people's property taxes. And even with the help that the legislature wants to provide, there's still going to be a lot of people who will not be able to afford to continue to live here. Is there a solution to that? Because the market forces have arrived.
Well, I think part of the reality of having people buy up multiple properties and then sit on them and hold them is that does jack up the prices for the rest of it. That does drive up the values. And these, billionaires who are buying huge swaths of private land, like in the Crazies or up in the Sealy Swan Valley or in Sanders County.
But how does that affect us here? How does that affect us here in River City in Missouri?
So it drives up the prices of everything, right? So when you see housing stock sitting empty, people have bought those houses for way over value. They came here maybe during COVID,
right?
And you see more for sale signs now, but people are sitting on them, so they're not going to sell them for less than $500,000-$600,000, and so that just drives up. It squeezes us out. It reduces the housing stock that's available. And it drives up the prices for all of the rest of us.
Well, guess what? The phone lines are filling up. So
Great. Well, you can pepper me with more questions too, and I'm happy to talk about all of that.
All right, let's get Rick on first. Rick, good morning. You are on with Monica Tranel. Go ahead. What's your question, please, sir?
When I was 19 years old, I bought my first house. I'm 67 now, and I've had as many as 3 rentals at one time. And I always rented them at below market value as far as the rental market goes. I worked in the timber industry. All the money that I made, what I had left over, I invested. I didn't buy trucks, rifles, snowmobiles, such things. At what point did that make me a housing profiteer? Because I've taken and sold my homes, financed my son's college, and I just want to know at what point was I a housing profiteer when I was buying houses with the money that I invested.
Yeah,
thanks for the call, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
I'd like you to keep me online.
No, that's a great question, and I think it's a great point. You probably bought your first house for. My brother and I have these, contests. I bought my first house for $100,000 and I borrowed all of it. And my brother said, well, I bought my first house for $60,000. That was in Roundup.
I bought my first house for $17,500.
And people
here in Missoula.
People bought trailers for $10,000, and those are homes. Right. They plant gardens there. They live there. And so it'd be interesting to know, Rick. But your point really is that you have invested in your community. You have kept your dollars here in your community. You are making homes available for people who live here who can't maybe afford to buy, but who are renting from you. And as a local landlord who lives here and is invested here, you are probably keeping those prices affordable for people because you're paying the price that you paid and you're not jacking up rents aligned with some algorithm from New York. And that is the real problem. So my housing plan is hold bad actors accountable and keep corporate profiteers from buying up housing stock who don't live here, they're not invested in our community. There are carve-out exceptions for people like you because we need people like you who are making housing available for people who need to live here, who are trying to get a foot in the door and who need a decent place to rent, to have their family live and to go to school. And so you're not the bad actor that we are trying to address. You're paying property taxes on all of those houses, and I'm sure you're taking good care of them. So it's not the local landowners or landlords like you who are, really invested in and committed to our communities. It's the corporate profiteers who don't live here, who don't have a face or a name, who aren't accountable to those of us who are living next door.
Okay, Rick, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Let's get Al on the line next. Al, good morning. You're on with Monica Tranel. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I just simply love to go watch the Lady Grizz basketball. And I would be sick to death if I saw a biological guy playing on either the Lady Grizz.
Yep, and so would I. I'm just going to cut you off and address the question right head on.
Are you for or against it? Well, my question is, are you for or against it?
I have been absolutely outspoken in public, across the board, everywhere, saying men should compete against men and women should compete against women. The playing field should always be fair. I am a 2-time Olympian. The fact that I am being attacked on this is just ridiculous. And you know what? It absolutely makes me angry because
where did that come from?
I don't know. It's part of that DC hate book that they are running. The Republicans are running that nationwide. That is their national hate book. You look at any race across the country, they are nationalizing it. And look at, well, what's next? What's the next chapter? What's the next culture war? It's just one page in the culture wars. And I'll tell you what, the thing that really makes me mad about that, I'm a 2-time Olympian. I've been gender tested. I know how to address this. Women should compete against women, period. And men should compete against men. I have never said anything different. That's the bottom line. The playing field should be fair. But you know what that distracts us from? That distracts us from talking to each other about the economic issues that are impacting our community now. My kids are playing sports in our public schools. And you know what they pay? An activity fee just to participate, because the cost of public education has gone up. The cost of everything has gone up. And because Ryan Zinke, who's been in power since 2008, in the highest elected offices, always in the majority, how is your life better? If these are problems for you, then why are you still voting for him? I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make it affordable for our families to live here. It's time for a change.
Okay, let's. Thanks for the call. I think Pam is up next. Pam, good morning. You're on with Monica Tranel. What's your question, please?
Good morning. I have a question about the rental situation again. And I have always felt that the reason people are using vacation rentals is because the hotel industry has raised their prices. To get a room, it's like $400 or $300.
Yeah.
And I know when my family wants to come here, say to a Grizz game, it is so expensive. So they do get vacation rentals.
Yeah.
So don't you think that's actually the beginning of the problem?
Well, I mean, thanks, Pam. It's another good point. And I think that you really have to be able to address all of the issues that we're facing right now. And that's why the first part of my housing plan is assessment. So really understanding what is actually the real problem and what's driving it. But the fact that hotels are jacking up the prices for rooms and that they're $200, $300, $400 a night, I mean, it's ridiculous. That shouldn't mean that everybody should be lockstep increasing prices everywhere for all of us across the board. We have to get a handle on what's actually happening there. And is that, a cost? Is that a market cost, like Peter would say? And then the other things that have happened in hotels, if you've noticed, is, they reduce the services. So during COVID, it was like, okay, we can charge $300, $400 a night. And oh, by the way, we're not going to provide any services. And so
you're on your own.
Yeah, you're on your own. And so it's sort of...
Here's some sheets. Good luck.
Right. And it's this economy that just is not working for the missing middle, right? Yeah. The middle class, the missing middle is not being served by this economy right now. Like, who can pay those rates? Well, people who are flying in from out of state or whatever, or, have the kinds of resources to spend. And so if you're going to go and, rent a place or stay with friends or something like that, yeah, should there be alternatives? Of course. But I don't think that we should just accept that always driving up it's not this race to who can price out more people faster.
Missoula locally owned motels are also being charged for property taxes that they have to try to come up with somehow.
Exactly.
And so because of that, their rates have to rise.
Right. And the utility rates, I mean, who bears those? It's residential property owners and small businesses. So right. I think what we need to be protecting are locally owned small businesses. And I've definitely been a champion for those folks too.
Okay. We're going to take a break, come right back, and we have Pam, Darlene, and Jeff, all waiting to visit with you. Monica Tranel, all of a sudden the phone lines are lighting up, and we only have her for an hour. So if you have a question from Monica, give us a call, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. We'll be back right after this. Should we tell them what the answer is?
I heard you're going to Cancun for 18 months is what I heard.
All right. Let's get Darlene on the line. Darlene, you're on with Monica Tranel. What's your question, please?
Hi, Monica.
Hey, Darlene.
I have a question about your property assessment and how you're going to do that and how you're going to tell people what they can do with their own property.
So I think that what you're talking about is if you have Airbnb, so you can do whatever you want with your property. But I think that the cost of having an empty houses, full streets of empty houses, that cost is real. It's real for communities, especially when you have sheriffs and teachers who are living in campers. And so there should be a cost to that. So you can say, okay, if you want to own 10 properties and have them all be Airbnbs on one street, and that street is sitting empty and it's 2 blocks from a school and there are families who can't afford to live in that town, there should be a cost so that there is a way for that community to be able to say, that's not what we want our community to look like. And maybe people can go make money in other private sectors. Maybe housing isn't the place to be, turning 10% profit. It's making...
It's not government's business what I do with my houses. Whether I own 1, 10, or 20.
Well, I think government does have, some regulatory oversight of what a community looks like, whether you have a sidewalk or not. Those are local issues. What I'm talking about is bearing the cost of those. If you choose to have your house sit empty, if you choose to have 20 houses on a street, that there should be a cost to that. And if you want to bear that cost, if you want to pay that cost, then you can go ahead and do that. But
what would be the mechanism whereby you would do that?
So making sure that if corporate entities are buying lots and lots of properties in downtown Missoula, that they are paying the cost of the impact of that on our community so that we can have homes here that are affordable.
But they're paying property taxes.
Paying additional vacancy rates. So if nobody lives in that house for over 6 months out of the year, if it just sits there empty.
So you're talking about
there's
another
some
tax.
kind of a vacancy fee for the people who can afford to have 20 houses. So this is to address
the
missing middle. For the billionaires and the people, the corporate hedge funds and the out-of-state profiteers who are buying up our housing stock in our communities, if they want...
How are you going to designate between the billionaire and the average citizen?
There's a difference between Rick, who said he's a local landlord, he lives here, he's paying property taxes here, and he's renting to people who are in our community. He talked about that. There's a difference between that and Wall Street, these real estate investment trusts.
So how are you going to regulate that?
Darlene, you got to let her answer.
I got to let her answer the question.
So, and
thanks, Nick.
And so the answer is to make there be a cost to having those billionaires and those hedge funds and those out-of-state corporate profiteers. So if you own multiple Airbnbs or multiple houses that you're only using as Airbnbs, it's not your personal home that you're trying to get additional income for so that you can meet your mortgage and meet your property taxes. It's not, you don't live there. So when you have those housing profiteers, they have to pay a fee for that there's a cost to that.
So it's an anti-business type.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I think it's making sure that people are paying the cost of the impact that they have on our local communities. If somebody wants to sell trailer homes and they want to get people into trailer homes, that's business, right? And we should make that possible so people can buy trailer homes for $10,000 and that they can finance them. My plan addresses that so that we can make sure that people are able to buy a house that they can actually afford and live in it and have a roof over their heads. That is pro-business, pro-small business. What we need to do is make sure that these real estate investment trusts, these corporate hedge funds that are buying up property taxes and investing in them, driving up the prices and squeezing us out, that they pay the cost of that.
Okay, thanks for the call. And Darlene, thank you for the call. Let's get Jeff on the line. Jeff, good morning. Actually, we're up against a break, Jeff, so you hang on. I promise we'll get to your question right after the break. Monica's going to be with us till 9 o'clock this morning. And so give us a call, 721-1290. We'll put you in the queue, and we'll get to you just as soon as we can.
Dennis Bragg with the updated weather. A slight chance of rain or mixed rain and snow showers. The higher elevations early, then clouds and a chance of rain the rest of the day, only warming to the upper 40s behind that cold front that moved through late Sunday. The threat of rain or mixed rain and snow in the higher valleys with a few inches of wet snow in the passes persists overnight tonight and into Tuesday. We may also have to deal with some morning fog Tuesday and again Wednesday morning. But we shall also see some sun Tuesday, mostly sunny skies Wednesday. Still a threat of light snow in the valleys at the end of the week.
We are back. This is Talk Back, and we have congressional candidate Monica Tranel joining us here in the studio this morning. And the phone lines have been lighting up, so let's jump right back in and get Jeff's call. Jeff, thanks for holding, sir. You're on with Monica. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning. Good to challenge you again, Monica.
I always appreciate it, Jeff. When are we going to just go right to the arm wrestling? All right. What do you got this time?
I think you're being completely disingenuous when you accuse Ryan Zinke of being the cause of people living in campers in Whitefish. They don't live in campers in Whitefish because of Zinke. He owns one home, a family home, that he decided to turn into an Airbnb. The people who live in campers, whether it's Missoula or Whitefish, and Patrick Barkey from the Bureau of Business and Economic Research has emphasized this point over and over and over again. People don't have access to housing because of restricted zonings and uncooperative building departments. It takes, I forget how many weeks it is now, but it takes like 3 or 4 times longer in Missoula to get a permit than it does in Billings. And if Whitefish, which is kind of the Aspen of the Northwest Montana, would open up for building rather than restrict building, there would be houses. It's the same for Missoula. It's the same all over. We've been underbuilding for decades, and now we reap the consequences. But that's not Ryan Zinke's fault. To accuse him of that is just disingenuous and kind of a cheap stunt, actually. That's something that I would have thought Beto O'Rourke would have done down in Texas.
Let me just give you some facts. So, first of all, you are correct that the housing issue is one that has been in the pipeline for a long time. So we didn't get here overnight. But the reality is that Ryan Zinke has been in office since 2008. This was an issue 2 years ago. He has done nothing about it in his last 2 years. Nothing. Not one thing. And so when you talk about the properties he owns, he has 9 properties in Flathead County, at least 9, under multiple entities, under LLCs. And one of them, the address that he is registered to vote from, it's both a bed and breakfast and an Airbnb, which are regulated differently. So what is it? And how is he benefiting from the local business laws when his wife's primary address is in California and he is living in Santa Barbara? He's seen there. That's where his travel is to, Santa Barbara. The address that he's registered to vote from is an Airbnb and a bed and breakfast. And he has another Airbnb that we shot an ad in. We rented it. We went in there and we shot an ad in it to show you what is going on. So you're not taking my word for it, Jeff. These are data, they're facts. I can give them to you. I can cite them to you. You can go online right now.
Would you change the law?
I'll send you the links to his Airbnb so you can see them and you can back up what I'm doing. And in terms of changing the law, what Whitefish has done is they've said, Airbnbs should be limited to certain areas. And if you're going to have an Airbnb in those areas, you have to register it and you have to pay taxes on the revenues. And Bozeman is doing the same thing. So those are ways that the local entities are saying, we don't want these short-term rentals in the downtown areas, which are depriving families of housing. But Jeff, I've got the facts and I'm happy to share them with you. And we did, actually.
Well, it's also a fact.
You can see them online. You can see my ads.
Go ahead, Jeff.
That not one of the things that you've said would change the fact that building departments aren't allowing more building. As a matter of fact, what you're advocating is more government intervention. We're going to have the government
increase regulation and make it even harder for businesses to do things rather than say, okay, let's build as much.
No,
as we can.
That's actually not accurate. So that's not accurate, Jeff. So let me answer. So on my housing plan, I do talk about streamlining permitting and reducing regulation, which the Montana legislature did. So I address those and include those in my plan because it is good to have streamlined permitting and regulation so that builders can get houses built. I also think we need to get resources into the hands of the people who can deploy these houses on the ground and build more homes for people in our community. So I have said over and over, investors need to be at the table, realtors, the developers, they are not the problem. They have to be part of the solution. Everybody has to be at the table. And I have convened housing conferences across this district, and I have had everybody from all walks of life. Every part of the political spectrum has been at the table.
Have you come up in those meetings? Have you come up with any realistic, on the ground, doable solutions?
Yeah, there are multiple in my housing plan. I will give you just a couple. So one of them is the land trust, the housing land trust. And those are happening in Whitefish and Kalispell.
We have some in Missoula, right?
We do. In Missoula, they've talked about them in Ravalli County, where you buy a lot for $250,000, you build for $250,000, you're looking at a $500,000 house. That's not affordable. So the community land trust, whether they're privately or publicly owned, where you're basically separating the value of the land from the value of the structure. But the family that buys the structure and calls it home never goes below the ceiling of what they originally invested in. So that's one example. Another example that I've come up with is adjusting the HUD regulations so that the area median income, when you see these houses go up here that are affordable housing, tax credits are built with, but then families are trying to get into them and they are overqualified because they make $10 too much. I mean, it's a black and white cutoff.
Right.
So adjusting the AMI, the area median income, giving local solutions the ability to swing just a little bit. We talked about this in Kalispell. We talked about it in Bozeman. We talked about it in Hamilton, in Missoula. People need just a little bit of flexibility so you can say, okay, look, we've got a teacher and a cop, and they're priced out of this new house by $1,000, $500. So allowing for a swing locally so that people can actually get into those houses. I've talked about that's a part of my plan.
Okay, let's get another call in before we have to take a break. This is Dave. Dave, good morning. You're on with Monica Tranel. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Two questions. First of all, there's an ad out there that says you want to take away our hunting rifles. And then second question is about foreign aid to Ukraine. Now, I've talked to Ryan Zinke twice on this radio station, and he maintains that he will refuse to give any foreign aid to Ukraine, even obsolete and overstocked equipment. What's your view on that?
Well, if Zinke is pro-Putin and pro-communist, then you should just vote accordingly. That's my view on that. I am not here to take away your hunting rights. That is absolutely false. I grew up on a ranch. We had people come out and hunt. My brother runs our family ranch today, and you can go out there and hunt on our ranch. And we have been absolutely consistent with the Montana way of life that private landowners, if you come, if you ask, if you sign in, that you can hunt on our property. Unlike the billionaires who are buying up huge chunks of property in the crazies in the Snowy Mountains in Sanders County and locking us out and not allowing us in there. So that is absolutely false, and it's totally contrary to the way I grew up and the way my family has operated our ranch.
Okay, and with that, we're up against another break. We're going to come right back. We have Tim, Nancy, Pat, and whom else? So we have a lot of folks waiting to visit with Monica Tranel. Only about 18 minutes left to do it, so we appreciate you taking all these calls. We're coming right back after this.
Thanks to generous community support, Wounded Warrior Project has helped post 9/11 veterans and their families since 2003. Through no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training, we're there every step of the journey.
It's possible to feel understood,
to get support when it's needed most.
And now I know anything is possible.
And we're just getting started. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/possible.
And we are back. This is Talkback. And our guest here in the studio, Monica Tranel, candidate for Congress, the 1st District, running against Ryan Zinke. She's a Democrat. And Tim is waiting, has been waiting the longest. Tim, good morning. You're on with Monica. Go ahead, please. Hello, Tim.
No, Tim.
Oh, sorry, I had you on mute.
That's okay, Tim. Go ahead, sir.
Here I am.
What's up?
I'd like to put a lot of people on mute.
A couple questions. Earlier, a caller called and asked about your view on as far as transgender people competing in sports. And just to get that correct, you said you are in favor or not in favor of only biological men and women competing in sports.
I don't know how I can be more clear about this. Men should compete against men. Women should compete against women. The playing field should always be fair. In the 96 Olympics, I was gender tested. I understand how this works. I'm a 2-time Olympian. The playing field always has to be fair, period.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Then how come how come then in May of this year you said you were in favor of a bill that would allow people identifying as trans to be considered male and female?
I did not say that. I have never said that. And that video that was shot was by these 2 kids who came up to me in the parking lot. If you watch that video, let's play it right now. If you want to watch it, go look at it. That's not what it says.
I just watched the whole video.
That is not what it says. It's not.
I just listened to the video. So you're calling me a liar?
Watch the video. Let's just watch the video. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer.
She says you're mistaken, but thanks for the call. All right, let's get Nancy on the line. Nancy, good morning. You're on Talk Back with Monica Tranel. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Gloria. Okay, Monica, I see 3 reasons why we're having such a terrible housing shortage. Let's go back to the COVID shutdown, the government shutdown. That was the beginning of it all. And then we have this terrible inflation because our government is overspending. And the third reason is Americans are being forced to compete with open borders, millions and millions of illegal aliens coming in. Our government is funding their apartments and housing and leaving the Americans out in the cold. So the solution, I think, here is a vote for Donald J. Trump next Tuesday. He proved himself in the first 4 years of his administration. He did pull us out of a recession. He can do it again for us and get the economy going, and that'll get the housing shortage under control. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, and thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm not running for president. I'm running for Congress against Ryan Zinke, and I think that you're correct. The way to have good policy addressing real problems is to understand what's actually driving the problem. So the housing crisis that is acute right now in Western Montana didn't happen overnight. It was all of the pieces were in place before COVID. There were a lot of pressures. It was very, very tight. And then what happened with COVID, we have this 2nd congressional district from the 2020 census because we were growing fast. And then since that 2020 census, Western Montana has been one of the fastest growing areas in the country. So I think addressing what is that growth, who's coming here, and a lot of, some of that growth is families who want to sink down roots here and invest in our communities and have small businesses and really, make our communities better by having small businesses, by investing here, by bringing resources and jobs. So we don't want to turn those people away. I think we want people here who are going to make our economy stronger. But what we want to be careful about is the housing profiteers and the bad actors and holding them accountable. And that's what I have addressed after conversations. My housing plan is one that I came up with after having conversations with everybody in all of the 16 counties in this district. I didn't do a poll. I didn't do a focus group. I reached out and I said, what do you need? What's facing you in your communities? And over again, the answer was housing. And I said, okay, well, what is the solution? And I heard from the people on the ground in the communities, here are things that will work here in our communities. And so that's the plan that I developed that was responsive to and in conversation with the people in our communities in Western Montana. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to solve the problem working with you.
Okay, let's move on and get Pat is on the line. Pat, good morning. You're on with Monica Tranel. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. I am very glad to have the opportunity to set the record straight on some things that Monica continues to say. Number one, Ryan Zinke does not live in Santa Barbara. His wife inherited property there and a business. If he was in Santa Barbara, he was there visiting. I know where Ryan is most of the time because I call and invite his supporters to go to events. So if he's not in Montana, he's in D.C. working. Number two, He owns properties. That's part of how he makes a living. Monica going into his properties to film ads is trespassing and wrong. And if Ryan wanted to spend the money to go after that, he would. He's a fifth-generation Montanan. But quit saying that he does not live in Montana. And the other thing, he is not pro-Putin and communist. He went as a Navy SEAL and fought for our country.
Well, thanks, Pat. I appreciate your. If you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer it. But I'm here to talk about me and the plans that I have for Montana based on the conversations I've had with people across this district. I'm asking you to hire me to do a job, which is to represent the people of Montana. And if you're with me and you care about the things that I'm telling you that I'll work on, great. If look, I have told you the address that Ryan Zinke is registered to vote from is listed as an Airbnb. You can go online and rent it yourself right now. It's also a bed and breakfast. Those are regulated differently. The other Airbnb that he has it's an Airbnb. I will give you the listing for it. You can go rent it. And, if Ryan Zinke thinks that it was fraudulent for me to go there, I want my money back that I paid to rent it, because anybody can rent it. It's available online. If you have a question, happy to answer it.
Well, I just don't like the way that you lie, and I think people need to know the truth, and I know the truth. So that's what I'm doing. I'm so thankful that you are not going to be voted in, and he will be reelected.
All right, Pat. Thanks for the call. All right, let's get Art. Art is up next. Art, good morning. You're on with Monica Tranel. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Monica.
Good morning, Art.
Some of the issues that you're talking about are very valid, like housing and things like that. But it seems like the concerns you have and the solutions that you present are more for the local level or the state level. How are you going to regulate when you go to Congress on a national level who's buying land in Montana and what they're doing about it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I think that the shift and the focus has become a little bit over on the side of regulation, and that's not what I'm talking about. And I think what's really important, what I have heard over and over, is that the feds absolutely have to be at the table participating in the conversation with our state partners, with our local partners, with our county partners. And one narrow example of the things that I have learned and addressed, and this is in my housing plan, is we have to fully fund the state pool of dollars that's available to have developers build more properties. So getting the resources into the hands of the people who can build them, who can build homes on the ground, that's important. And knowing what is the hang up, what's a sticking point, where is the bottleneck happening, and being accountable, making sure that people are accountable. So if the dollars are going to the state and they're just sitting there, which has been happening in Flathead County, there was $8 million available for housing, and it was reliant on a match. And the county raised $4 million, but not the other $4, and so it got sent back to the state. Is that a good solution for Flathead County? I understand maybe some people don't want to use federal dollars for on-the-ground solutions. That's certainly a policy choice and decision that they might want to make there. But if we're trying to get houses built, then the feds absolutely have to be a partner in that conversation. And I have shown up. I've had those conversations. I've been working with the people on the ground. I've built those relationships, and I will be a partner in developing and building solutions. Okay,
we're going right back. We have about 7 minutes in our real quick. I'll let you ask your question, then we'll take the break and she'll answer. Okay, good. Real quickly, what's your question?
Yeah. What kind of national legislation would you propose in order to deal with the issues you're raising about housing?
Okay, we'll answer that when we come back. This is a quick time out. Stay with us. We'll be right back. When it comes to real estate, okay, an exciting moment for all. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. All right, so now the exact legislation that national legislation that would help to ameliorate the problem.
I'll give you just a few examples. So removing the permanent financing requirement or the permanent chassis requirement for a trailer home so that you can finance them separately. Making sure that private equity can't buy up trailer homes and raise the land. The Price Act, making sure that we're getting dollars into federal programs that will help rural folks be able to build more houses. There are a number of different programs on housing options and fully funding the state programs, the block grants that come from federal dollars. So those are some of the pieces that I have proposed that are listed on my website. And I think that I approach this as an ongoing conversation with the community, because more solutions will become available as we continue to have these conversations. And what's been important to me is to show up, listen to people, take feedback, and make course corrections where it's necessary.
Let's get one more call in, and then let's get up on the stump.
Great,
so let's get Chuck on the line. Chuck, you're going to be the last caller from Monica. Real quickly, what's your question? Hello, Chuck. Okay, so we try Brian?
Coming in from Forsyth.
I don't know. Brian, quickly, what's your question for Monica?
I'll have it on the radio. Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you. When you were running before for an elected office, I asked you if you were going to support and give our tax money to educate illegal aliens. You said yes. I was wondering if you're still going to do that.
I have no...
Thanks for the call.
I don't support that, and that's not something that I have said in the past. So if you have some... that's not the issue. What we are facing right now in our schools is a real crisis where we are seeing the largest population growth in Gallatin County is English as a second language learners. People who are coming in and really creating a lot of stress on the system there. I've met with the county superintendent. I've met with educators. My sister teaches in Bozeman, and that is something that we need to address and figure out how we're going to make sure that our kids are getting educations. And like I said, we're having all of these culture war conversations, which really miss the point of the fact that our communities, the missing middle in our communities right now, are being forced to pay the cost of everything, pay activity fees to even participate in sports. Why aren't we talking about that? Why aren't we talking about the real world lives of the people who are struggling just to get by, who don't have the luxury of spending an hour calling in and asking about culture war issues, who are really just trying to make ends meet? I've met with folks who are working 3 jobs, all of which pay $20 an hour, and guess what? They can't afford a place to live. We have to fix this, and we can. These policy choices got us here. Policy choices can get us out.
We have about a minute and a half left for you to get up on your stump, and now you're already on it. So
yeah, well,
if you want to just continue, go ahead.
There is a real choice for you in this election. Ryan Zinke has been in power since 2008. He's always been in the majority. He's been at the highest level of power, and he has done nothing for Montana. He has bought up multiple properties. He is a housing profiteer. He is getting rich off of the housing crisis. I have spent the last 20 years of my legal career here in Montana working for you, the people of Montana. I've kept utility rates low. I have fought for you in the trenches. I've been by your side. I have taken on ranch clients, very conservative Montanans. I've worked for you. I've been a champion for Montana. I am running for this office to be a champion for Montana in Congress, to make sure that our voice is heard, that our issues are worked on. And look, I have taken the effort to build solutions, to work on the problems that we're all facing, to address the missing middle. I'm the 6th of 10. It's in my DNA to be in the center. I'm here to help. I'm here to develop solutions. I'm here to make a real change, make a difference for the missing middle.
People want to donate. Where can they go?
MonicaTranel.com.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And best of luck with your transmission.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter, and my snow tires.
All right, your snow tires as well. Yeah. All right, we are going to take a break, and thank you for all of your... yes, that's yours. We'll get one for you, too. Hang on. So thanks for joining us. We're going to come right back after the top of the hour. David Moore is going to be joining us. He has an outfit or an organization called No Camping in Missoula Parks. We're going to be talking, but we've had people ask to have him on, and we have it. He's been coming on in the 9 o'clock hour, and that's coming up right after.
Paid for by Burke. This is Talkback, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO. Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is hour number 2 of Talk Back with this Monday, October 28th. And Talk Back this morning is brought to you by our friends at Harrington Surgical Supply, where appointments are preferred for mastectomy fittings and custom compressions, but walk-ins are always welcome. Also brought to you by Phillips Janitorial, residential and commercial cleaning, your home and your business. Give them a call today. No job is too big or small for 406-260-6617. Phillips Janitorial. Y West Storage is out at the Y on Two Smokes Way, and they have a storage unit for you. Give them a call today, 406-510-0590 at Y West. They're making room for you. And also brought to you this morning by 123 Seamless Gutters, family owned and operated, serving all of Western Montana. Give them a call today, 406-240-2669, protecting the foundation of your future.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Okay, we've been waiting a long time, and we finally have hooked up. Thanks to Mr. Nick, our fabulous producer, Nick Christensen, right over there. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
All right, joining us here in the studio this morning, David Moore. David is the founder of a group called No Camping in Missoula Parks, and welcome. It's good to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me today.
You bet. So tell us a little bit about David and how you started this. I mean, this is obviously something that a lot of people have thought about, but you have coalesced into a group.
Well, actually, we call ourselves No Camp Missoula. That's the nonprofit.
Okay.
But what happened was after that big storm, there was porta potties put out in Bellevue Park, and we thought, oh, that's for the linemen and the arborists. And then my neighbor sent me a map that the city had for allowable parks for camping. And so we started going to some neighborhood meetings, and we had over 200 people in Bellevue Park. And we made connections, people met each other, and then we organized into a group. What are we going to do? And went and talked to a businessman that I know, and he said, who do I write a check to? And so that's why we formed the nonprofit. And so we have a small kitchen table cabinet, and we brought all the right people together. One of our members has been homeless 3 times, and now he's successful. The signs were designed by a friend of mine, and that's been one of the biggest things, getting the conversation started, because we've put out over 600 of those, and we still have a few left.
Now, tell me a little bit about why this group exists, because I know there's been camping in Missoula Parks for quite a while. And at what point did somebody just finally put their foot down and say enough is enough, or did we get to a point where that happened, or what?
Well, once the Supreme Court overturned Grant's Pass and said that the city does not have to allow camping on public land, we should have gone back to the way it was before 2018. 2018 to 2024, the city didn't enforce the park regulation that there was no camping in any city park. So that's been on the books for 30 years. And so their new ordinance didn't give law enforcement any tools. Also, 4 of these parks around the initial map, Bellevue, Bonner, McLeod, and White Pine Park, are school safety routes. And we just found that incredulous that would be something that you would want people camping in, because Bellevue Park, over 350 kids go through that park every day to go to school.
And there are people camping there?
We've had a few.
Right. Okay.
A couple of arrests for drug use and property damage.
So what is if you wouldn't mind just vocalizing, what is the complaint? Why would you not want people camping in our public parks, even if it's only from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.?
Well, number one, that was never the intent of our public parks for camping. The public can't use them. You and I cannot go camp in our city parks, ever, even when they were allowing it during the pandemic. Secondly, that's not the purpose. We've invested a lot of money in these parks. Bonner Park, for example, is a generational investment. It's over 100 years old. These parks are the heartbeat of a neighborhood. And the idea that we're going to spread out the homeless problem around the whole city puts those people at a disadvantage of getting the services they need, because not all parks have running water, toilet facilities, or even close to stores.
And so, so your group would do what? What specifically are you asking the city to do or not do?
We're asking the city to ban camping in all city parks, give law enforcement back the ability for those people after Apple warning to do some type of enforcement to get them to comply.
And do you have any I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but that would be up to the police. I'm sure they have their own methods, or what?
Yes, and there's the HOT program with the POV, and there's all kinds of research.
The homeless outreach team, yeah.
Yeah, outreach. And like at Wednesday at council, the whole meeting, law enforcement got up and said, we give people plenty of opportunity to comply and to cooperate. And finding them is the last thing we want to do. But if it's what we have to do, we need to be able to do that.
All right, we're up against our first break. We're going to come right back. Our guest here in the studio is David Moore. No camping in Missoula parks, and is the group. And Nancy is waiting on the line. We're going to get her call on. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309, or use the KGVO app and message us. We'll be right back with more with David Moore right after this.
Dennis Bragg with the updated weather. A slight chance of rain or mixed rain and snow showers. The higher elevations early, then clouds and a chance of rain the rest of the day, only warming to the upper 40s behind that cold front that moved through late Sunday. The threat of rain or mixed rain and snow in the higher valleys with a few inches of wet snow in the passes persists overnight tonight and into Tuesday. We may also have to deal with some morning fog Tuesday and again Wednesday morning. But we should also see some sun Tuesday, mostly sunny skies Wednesday. Still a threat of light snow in the valleys at the end of the week.
Hey, welcome back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. I'm Peter Christian, and, of course, Nick Christensen taking your phone calls, producing Talkback this morning. Our guest here in the studio is David Moore. He has a group called No Camp Missoula, and you had just mentioned that there's a lot of interest in this organization.
Yes, we have over 1,100 signatures online and on a paper petition asking the city to reverse the current ordinance. And so there's been a lot of emails to all the city councilors and the mayor, and a lot of pushback from the community against their current ordinance.
And you had mentioned, interestingly, that there's some homeless folks who have reached out to you and said, hey, you're championing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. We've had several homeless people say that they don't like the ordinance either because it creates a negative effect on people's opinion of them. And they don't think it's workable. I had a really long letter from a guy that said that he won't go to the shelter, but he won't camp in a city park. He has a place that he goes up to Rattlesnake, and he was working, and it's really interesting. We've had a lot of people that have worked with homeless outreach that have said that they have actually been volunteers for us because they don't think it's a good policy either.
Okay. All right, let's get to the phone and say good morning to Nancy. And Nancy, good morning. You're on with David Moore. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, David. I have to agree, no camping in city parks for several reasons. There's no RV dumps, obviously, and these people don't need permits. Is that correct?
Currently, no.
Okay, so that means that all this extra garbage and everything else that they are producing and environmental damage to these parks, then the taxpayers have to pay for this. And I have to say this. I'm curious, how many, we say homeless. Has there ever really been a survey taken? Are some of these people actually homeless due to hard times, or are there a lot of these people that just enjoy an irresponsible gypsy-style lifestyle? And thank you, sir.
All right, thanks for the call, Nancy.
Okay, I don't know the exact numbers, but I was talking to a fellow last weekend that he says there's a certain percentage that you're right, they just want the gypsy lifestyle. There's a lot of people that are having transitional house, in between houses, sleeping out of their cars because they're trying to get into an apartment. And then, then there's the mental illness that trying to get those people taken care of. We've talked to code enforcement, and they say there's some people they've been looking for because they want to get them help. Yeah, it's a whole range of different, and I'm no expert on it. I just know that the stories I've heard from people about the trash in their parks and the feces, that they have just hit a breaking point.
I have had several conversations and some heartrending conversations with city councilors, with government officials. Andrea Davis, our new mayor, went to mayor's school, basically back east, and was talking with her fellow mayors about this, and it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, even overseas. There are homeless camps all over the place, and so it seems to be it's not something that's localized to Missoula, Montana, but here's an organization that's asking for permission to say we don't want you camping in our public parks.
Correct. We want to go back to the way the park rules have been for over 30 years and enforce that because of the investment that communities have in our parks. And I don't think that's a big ask because the city has other property that they could designate as alternative camping sites.
Okay, we do have a caller. We have Jeff waiting. Jeff, good morning. You're on with David Moore. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, David. Good morning, Montana. I really appreciate what you're doing, David, because I think it's absolutely necessary. It's citizens coming and saying, well, no, we don't want this anymore. It's not some government agency. It's not some NGO. It's the local folks saying enough is enough. And I think I don't know if you have any position on this or not, but as I look at this personally, I know I'll probably be chastised as being heartless. But when you look at this, there's an 800-pound gorilla that no one's talking about. And that's the fact that 80% of the people who are homeless are either drug users or mentally ill. You know, we have a pretty well-established agreement. I think it was actually from the city or county folks themselves that when they count the population out there, there's approximately 20% who are genuinely homeless, and that we need to do something to help them, you know, give them a hand up, not a handout. As for the other 80%, though, all they're interested in is a handout. They don't care about getting a handout. All they want, if they're drug users, is the next fix. Or if they're mentally ill, they may not even know what they want or need. And if they're both, it's just even more confounded. So, yet the city seems to, and the county, seem to have plenty of money for external things like parks and warming shelters and all that other stuff. And rather than that, because I think there's enough facilities for the genuinely homeless, and again, I'm going to sound heartless, but I think it's time to look at putting more cells in the jail. You know, they built a camping spot right next to the jail, county jail. Maybe that needs to be a building that could house people who are repeat offenders. And maybe that would give them some encouragement not to repeat because, they know what the consequences are. And if they're genuinely mentally ill, let's look at some sort of facility to treat them or house them or do something to support them rather than just letting them wander around on the streets without, with minimal support. Oh, we'll give you a meal and a bed. That's not helping them with their mental illness. There needs to be some sort of structure. With mental illness, there's always a structure needed. And so that's my impetus. I'm not trying to say that they're evil, bad, and they need to be, chastised and thrown in jail. That's not the answer for everything, but it is the answer for some of it. And right now we hear a lot that it's just not enough jail cells. We can't do it. We find them and we release them. Well, I think it's time to not release them and for the city and county to get involved in that. And so I'd be interested in hearing your comments on what is strictly my opinion.
Well, Jeff, tell you what we'll do. I'm going to give David an opportunity to answer that full because we're up against a break now. So we cataloged what you've talked about, and we're going to talk about it when we come back. Phone lines, all the phone lines are open. If you want to talk with David Moore, who's the No Camping in Missoula Parks, you've seen the signs. It's called No Camp Missoula. He's here on Talkback to talk with you and get your questions and comments and suggestions. 721-1290 is our number. We'll be right back after this.
Montana State News Network.
I'm Dennis Bragg. A Phillips County woman killed over the weekend after a Chevy Trailblazer ran off the road and slammed into a ditch. Montana Highway Patrol says the 23-year-old woman was killed when she was driving north of Saco late Friday night. A 75-year-old man was killed when his Ford pickup ran off the highway near Belfry in Carbon County Saturday afternoon. Montana Highway Patrol says the man, who was from Roberts, lost control of the truck and went off the side of the road, went through a fence, crashed into a tree, and caught fire. The man died at the scene. A new movie about Montana's most legendary artist is getting some awards buzz, as Will Gordon reports.
A new movie featuring a famous Montana painter could be an award contender. A new movie coming out called Buffalo Days depicts one of Montana's most famous painters, Charles M. Russell. This is one of the first depictions of Charles M. Russell in a movie, and it's been getting a lot of award buzz. The movie currently does not have a release date, so it could be released in 2024 or 2025. Will this movie become award-worthy? Only time will tell. In Bozeman, Will Gordon, Montana State News Network.
There's a week left before Election Day in Montana, and just under half of the voters casting their votes by mail have returned their ballots to local elections officials. The Montana Secretary of State's office is showing just over 252,000 ballots of the 522,000 outgoing ballots have been returned so far. That works out to just over 48% of all the absentee or vote by mail ballots. Several of the largest counties in Montana are over 50% return already, including Cascade, Silverbow, and Yellowstone counties, with Ravalli County at 56%. 46% of the ballots have been returned in Missoula County, with only 42% of the ballots back. Of course, the elections officials are warning us to get those ballots back in the mail as soon as possible because of possible delays with the U.S. Postal Service. You're listening to the Montana State News Network.
For more on these stories and others around Montana, download the Montana State News app.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
And we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. I'm Peter Christian. That is Mr. Nick Christensen over there taking your phone calls. Joining us here in the studio is David Moore with No Camp Missoula. And Jeff had some very interesting questions and some thoughts, so you wanted to address those. Please go ahead.
Right. I don't think jail is the right answer, but right now there's no penalties for breaking the rules. So there's no incentive to follow guidelines, clean up after yourself, any of that. So there has to be some penalties in the law. There's an infrastructure problem. Like where the Johnson shelter is located, it should be in a light commercial area, not a residential district. There's a big safety concern. We have 91 city parks. The city says that 56 are available for sheltering, and then they're actually planning another park and another development, but it doesn't make sense. But, without penalties and expectations of behavior, the situation's just going to get worse.
Okay, but by the way, I just did some Googling, and the Parks and Recreation budget, the budget for 2025 for Missoula Parks and Rec is $10,105,000. And because we have a lot of parks, Missoulians love the recreation, and so we do everything we can to make the parks beautiful and nice and easy to get to and easy to use. And now just one more thing is added to the burden of those parks.
I'm glad you brought that up because statewide, and this is 2019 figures, public parks added over $700 million in both wages and added value to the Montana economy. And, Missoula is a tourist location. So we want to put our best face forward from people coming here. So if they come here and they get the Portland or Seattle experience, they'll probably quit coming to the city.
All right, let's get another call in. This is Mr. Wingnut. Mr. Nutt, good morning. You're on with David Moore. Go ahead, please.
Well, good morning. Peter said that suggestions were a form that you guys would entertain. So I have a suggestion that has been on my mind for some time, and maybe this isn't specifically for this gentleman and the parks issue, but it does encompass the overall homeless situation in Missoula. A number of months ago, I watched it was about either Edmonton or Calgary up in Canada, and they had reached their limit, let's say their red line on the homeless situation in one of those two cities, and so they decided that it was just going to be a homeless situation in their city, and to accomplish that, the folks would either need to triage the situation, whether it's going to be mental health or drug help to overcome their problems there, or jail if that was necessary. But it was a real proactive way of approaching it, and I don't know what the overall success of their program was, but my suggestion is that talk to the folks up in Edmonton or Calgary and see what kind of success they had with their zero tolerance program, and maybe even if it wasn't completely successful, that they might have some very good suggestions on what did their city. And that's my suggestion for the day. Thanks.
Thank you for the call, sir. Go ahead, David.
That's a good thing to look into. I was going to say that Rochester, New York, last year, before the Supreme Court even overturned Grants Pass, had cleaned up their city parks, and they've been successful at it. And because
how did they do it?
We don't have enough time to talk about that. But
yeah.
They issue very few citations. Hillsboro, Oregon is another example. They had a big encampment outside of that town. They clean it up. They tell people where they can camp, how much they can have with them. There's high expectations set. They're working on building a new homeless shelter there, but it's another city that's being really proactive and getting urban camping out of the residential areas.
I will tell you that my daughter, son-in-law, live in Seattle, and when my daughter first started going to school there, about 10 years ago, it really was the Emerald City. It was beautiful. I mean, there were clear parks, beautiful, lakes, and then rivers, and all sorts of. It was gorgeous, and the parks were absolutely fabulous. And then as the years went on, when she got through school and is now a nurse there, year after year, we'd start driving into Seattle to see her, and coming further and further and further and further down the interstate were camps along the side of the road and up on the hillsides. And now it's this whole city's basically covered with homeless camps and very, very, shabby conditions. And it really brings down the town. And we certainly don't want Missoula to turn into that, obviously, even though the weather there is much better, I'm sure, than it is here. So with your organization, what are you trying to accomplish? Let's put it that way.
Why create a mess in 56 parks that has to be continually cleaned up? Just don't allow it. Some of those big cleanups in Seattle, they've found weapons, explosives. There's a whole environmental thing to this. And I was told at the beginning, because we have a ditch going through Bellevue Park, that DEQ won't do anything until something's happened. In fact, a lot of what I was told was, unless something happens, we're not going to do anything.
Can you define something happens means what?
E. coli in the water.
Some sort of environmental
pollution,
disaster. Yeah.
And then whatever's in the park. I mean, I talk to people all the time that are seeing syringes around town in the parks and on sidewalks. And I almost stepped on one of the other day off of Stevens, and it was in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. All right, let's get another call in. This is Susan. Susan, hold on. Go ahead. What's your question, Susan? Go ahead, please.
Well, it's a comment and a question. I was at two very boring hearings last week, and I do think that county or the city officials create these hearings to make them as boring and as long as possible so that normal people do not want to sit through them. I sat through part of them and I gave my testimony, but I really appreciate David, who I know is Doc, for what he has done. My voice is really bad today, so I'm not going to stay on the line. But we need to, as a community, object to this. We need to object, and we need to object strongly, and we need to stand behind Doc, and we need to donate to the efforts. I'm going to get off the phone. Sorry for my voice.
Thanks for the call. So your thoughts?
Thanks, Susan. And we've appreciated your support. And the fact is, the people have been supporting us right along financially. I mean, it's been either, a little bit of money to pay for a yard sign, and we'll give a yard sign to anybody. You don't have to pay for it. We still have them left because we've had some generous donors because the community is really concerned, especially with all these playgrounds and that in the parks. For example, Bellevue has a little bike park. Over the weekend, there's probably 100 kids out there playing that thing Saturday and Sunday. Parents, there was a birthday party out there, so that's what the parks are for. They're not for overnight camping.
And with that, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We have Harry waiting to visit. Our guest here in the studio, David Moore. The organization is called No Camp Missoula. You've seen the signs around town saying no camping in Missoula parks. If you agree, disagree, would like to visit with David, that's why he's here. And people have been asking us to get him on it. So Nick has accomplished that. So we're going to come right back and get your phone calls and comments when we return right after this.
Hardwater.com.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the Monday, October 28th edition of Talkback. Peter Christian here. Nick Christensen over there taking your phone calls, producing Talkback. Joining us here in studio, David Moore with No Camp Missoula, and folks are waiting on the line to visit with him. So, Harry, you are up first. Thank you for holding, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, David. Yeah, first off, we just got to recognize that there's always been homeless. I mean, I remember when there was a homeless camp. It was on just by the Orange Street on-ramp there. It was there for years, and then they chased them out of there. Then they moved down by the river, and then until people got bad about that, and they chased them out of there. Now they spread them all over the city. So, I mean, it's been going on forever. But the trouble is, it's easy to be against something. You can protest stuff, but I don't hear a lot of things how to fix it. I mean, and there are some suggestions, but they cost money. Everything that does cost money, and people don't want to pay. I mean, the Johnson Street shelter. Oh no, don't like that. That costs money. You say, well, there's properties they can use. People are going to protest that. They don't like, the city spending money on these homeless. We don't want to do that. So I don't hear any real solutions here. I mean, like I say, it's easy to be against something, and like I say, put them in jail. Well, that costs money. Fine them. How do you find somebody who has nothing? You're going to take away their shoes? I mean, so I don't, I don't hear a lot of solutions going on here.
Harry, thanks for the call. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, that's a good question and a good point. We can only suggest so much. We're trying to rectify a really bad city ordinance. Parks were never intended for any type of unsheltered housing. That was not what we paid for. And the city does have other property they could use. I know there's going to be pushback, but the neighborhoods were not really properly notified, even though the city said we had it on the agenda. Everybody got a postcard about the water and sewer rate increase, so they know how to reach us. I mean, literally, this is something that affects 91 neighborhoods. So there should have been a postcard in the mail and gotten more civic input rather than the 25 people that were in the working group that came up with this idea. And this ordinance is partially modeled off the Bozeman ordinance, which has now been partially reversed. So, and we would love to advocate for other things, but first we have to get camping banned in the city parks. And then we can move on to something else.
Okay, let's get to Emmett on the line. Emmett, good morning. You're on with David Moore. Go ahead, please.
Thanks for taking my call. Well, I really do appreciate what you're doing. I mean, if I were homeless, I would not want to camp in a park. I agree with you about what parks are for, and it does present a safety hazard. And, you know, I don't believe in painting all the homeless with a broad brush or having preconceived notions about the homeless. You know, they're all drug addicts or mentally ill, but I think 65% are just down on their luck because they can't afford a home or they can't get a job or whatever. But there are 35% of them that are dangerous. I have been attacked and accosted by some of the homeless people in my lifetime. That has happened. They can be dangerous. Not all of them. I think the solution is to build more apartments. We've got to get some sort of rent controls or incentives, lower property taxes or something. But yeah, as far as the idea of institutionalizing the mentally ill against their will, forced commitments, I'm against that. Because we used to do that. I just don't think you should be forced on medication or institutionalized against your will. You know, that was wrong. We used to have what was known as poorhouses. Those were disasters. I don't want to see that, but I think we ought to have some solution. What you're doing and standing for to protect the citizens. Sorry if my thoughts seem to be kind of rambling, but I have a bad cold. It happened. Yeah, I have a bad cold. So, what do you think of all that? Do you have any solutions?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Eben, thanks for the call. Go ahead, David, please.
It's always good to hear these stories. A lot of times I don't like going downtown in the evening because I get panhandled quite a bit. And I'm a large guy, but I still, don't like it. Occasionally we have to hold people against their will. We had a family friend that stole a car. He'd had a head injury, and they held him in jail for 60 days and forced him to medicate before they released him. And now he's living in a apartment over in Great Falls. So sometimes there's a need for that, but I'm no expert on mental health. I know we've had homelessness in this community since I moved here. I grew up in Great Falls, and I was a quarter block from a city park, and it's the best childhood you can have, being able to have a huge backyard that you called your park. So, yeah, these are difficult community problems, and we're not going to solve them overnight, but we don't want to make them worse.
You bet. We're going to come right back. And Kevin and Alex are both waiting to visit with you. Our guest here in the studio, David Moore, he'll be with us for about another 18 minutes. He's with No Camp Missoula, no camping in Missoula parks. You've seen the signs. This is the man behind that organization. If you have a question or a comment, agree, disagree, suggestions, give us a call, 721-1290. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. This is Talk Back. Thank you for all the calls. We've got even more coming in for David Moore. He's with No Camp Missoula, no camping in Missoula parks. And Kevin has been waiting the longest. Kevin, good morning. You're on Talk Back. Go ahead, please.
Well, good morning, Mr. Moore. Thank you for taking our calls. And I am following you on No Camp Missoula on Facebook. I am one of your followers. Got a couple questions here to ask you, maybe a suggestion. Is this strictly volunteer, or are you in it for the money like some of the 501s in Missoula?
Oh, no, this is all volunteer. We have dozens of volunteers, and they're all unpaid.
Thank you for that. What do you think? You have an uphill battle because you're fighting against a lot of people. You're jeopardizing a lot of people's jobs. Their job is to bring people in here so that they can have a paycheck and fleece the taxpayers of Missoula and cause a lot of chaos. Since you said a lot of these people have been showing up in your backyard, do you think it's fair for a lot of these city people that are for camping in the parks that we ought to pick the campers up and put them in their backyard?
You're not the first one to suggest that.
We're okay, right? Okay, right. And another suggestion, sir, is please don't give up the fight. These are our parks. The taxpayers have paid for them. And do you think, one more question, do you think that maybe implementing the use of no loitering and panhandling in Missoula city limits would also be part of the solution?
I think that would be...
Thanks for the call, sir. Go ahead.
Really a great idea, because the secondary problem with this sheltering in parks is then the people loiter all day. We had one in Bellevue. They hid in the bushes about 25 feet from the bike park for 3 days, and it took about 5 days going through the process to get them out of the park. And, you know, like I said, there's a lot of kids that go through these parks. I saw kids poking around in the tarp because they knocked the tent down. That was the thing, your tent's got to be down, but that doesn't mean it gets moved. So then you got kids poking around in things like kids will do, and so they could get a needle stick, who knows. You know, so it's, but the loitering is a problem. The panhandling, you see them all over town, and I would love to see that, but I don't think the city will ever do anything about it. But go to the Broadway Albertsons, there's people laying out on the sidewalk panhandling. So a lot of people don't go to that store during the evenings.
All right, let's get Sandy on next. Sandy, good morning. Thank you for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to David for doing all this and getting the awareness out to the public. The signs, seeing this, all the signs around town is just really inspiring to get something done on the city level. And so I wanted to thank you and Susan and everyone else who came to voice their support for this ordinance change that we've been discussing in council. It did pass, setting the public hearing did pass on Wednesday, so we are officially voting to set the public hearing tonight at our city council meeting. So there'll be opportunity for folks who are in support of changing it so that you cannot camp in parks. There's opportunity to talk on that tonight, but the official public hearing will be on December 2nd. And as David probably noticed, that there's a lot of homeless advocates who are against this ordinance change, and they show up in droves to these meetings. So we really need people who are in support of changing the ordinance and who are not in support of camping in parks. We need those folks to come to council, either virtually or in person, tonight and on December 2nd, to say that enough is enough, and we don't want our kids to be exposed to this. I know that people are really busy, and especially since the public hearing is right after the Thanksgiving week. But I really, really need everyone who is signing on to David's platform and the No Camp Missoula. I really need them to show up in droves.
Sandy, thanks for the call. Your response, David?
Sandy, you're exactly right. People for the next, until we have that first vote, need to stay engaged, and then until you have the final vote, which I'm not sure, will that be in December?
Yes, it'll be December 2nd.
No, well, that's the second reading. Then there's a third reading where it finally gets pushed through, and then after that, I think it's 30 days it goes into law. So people just have to stay engaged. We encourage everybody to email the city council and the mayor and just tell them exactly how they feel about this issue.
You bet. All right, let's continue on and get Alex on the line. Alex, good morning. You're on with David Moore. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Hey, gentlemen. Thanks for having the discussion today. And Dave, thanks for coming on the show. I had a question. I tend to agree with you that there should not be camping allowed in city parks, but I also feel that in some ways the city has arrived at this decision because they're sort of handcuffed by their financial constraints and regulatory constraints. And I guess I'm curious, when I look at the homeless issue in Missoula, a lot of it seems tied to 2017 when the legislature removed a lot of the funding for state mental health facilities, and you can see a statistical uptick at that time in police and emergency calls that's pretty dramatic and supports that. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what's the state's role in all this? You know, as a former state legislature, you're kind of uniquely posed to answer this question. But, you know, we have a state government that's touting our budget surplus. Every year we're getting these checks for, reimbursement on property taxes. It seems like if there were like an option on that sheet that you have to fill out every year with just a box you could tick that said, I want to donate this to the city of Missoula to solve the houseless issue, that could be a funding source for this. But, you know, as the 2025 legislative session approaches, I guess I just wonder what should the state be doing here? Because this is a problem that's not unique to Missoula. It's every major municipality across the state. And it just seems like they're kind of left on their own to deal with it. So I'm just curious on your thoughts.
Good question. Thanks. Go ahead, David.
We have a mental health and a suicide crisis in the state. And I believe there's a $300 million. I don't know if that's a federal or state money that's supposed to be going out into the communities, but I can tell you there is a shortage of providers and services, and that the state has to get more involved and play a role in funding those in the local communities. It just has to. I think Montana is either number 1 or number 2 in suicide rates, but I don't know.
It is with veteran suicides, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mental health thing, I have a job where I go out and do site inspections for the Department of Health and Human Services, and they can't get enough mental health providers to sign on. So it's a real struggle, you know, having the services, the providers, the counselors. We can't do it alone on the city can't do it alone on the city. It's got to have state and federal funding to do it.
Okay. With that, we're up against our final break. We have Skip waiting to visit with you. Several other phone lines open. About 8 minutes left. You have a question for David Moore. He's with us with No Camp Missoula. We'd love to hear from you. We only just have a few precious minutes left, so take advantage of it. Give us a call at 721-1290, or you can use the KGVO app. Back after this.
For breakfast.
We are back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Our guest here in the studio is David Moore with No Camp Missoula, and Skip has been waiting. Skip, good morning. You're on Talkback. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Peter. I hope you had a nice weekend, sir. And Mr. Moore, thank you for the endeavor that you are making. It's a private organization bringing all this to the surface. Certainly more transparently than I would say the city council and the mayor have done. I'm saying that because I live in Ravalli County, and there's a whole lot of people here that are watching carefully what happens in Missoula as this problem either gets capped or you find some solutions that disperse it so in a fair way. And I would say there's two groups, and correct me if I'm wrong, just from observation, there's those that really enjoy that lifestyle, and then there's those that would really appreciate a hand up. They're made up of different types of people. So are you satisfied with what the city council is doing right now? And tell me if I'm wrong. Peter would know this, because I met the lady mayor at his 50th anniversary in Missoula and told her that we'd be watching down here so that we could maybe head off a problem by modeling some of the things they come up with. So Peter would know, when is the mayor up for re-election?
Well,
one question.
She is filling out a 2-year term, and then the mayoral term, I believe, is 6 years. So
I see.
Is that right? Is that right, Nick?
That's a few.
That sounds longer.
Okay.
I think it is 4.
4 years. Okay. Yeah.
Everything got really complicated with obviously the passing of Mayor Engen. So, I'm not exactly sure when we're back on our regular process. So,
but I just think it's wonderful that you guys are getting in the mix and getting all these cards on the table so that they can get filtered and crunched down and maybe set a good example that can be followed. Because the young people, the children, especially in the park, are the ones that are that are either targets or vulnerable, and their lives should not be interfered with because of our homeless populations. But meanwhile, thanks for your work, and if you have any ideas about what the city council is doing to really find solutions instead of just identify all these problems, I'm sure that it'll be appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the call. So we have about exactly 3 minutes left in our time together. And so we like to devote these last 3 minutes to our guests, to you, to maybe first of all, answer that question, and then give your thoughts. Again, go back to the beginning and tell us why you're doing what you're doing and what you hope to accomplish and what your next moves are, basically.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to answer that question and then I'll move on to talking about the group. There's a few city council members that are under the opinion that there should be no rules because they're afraid we're criminalizing homelessness. And that is not the intent of the amendment to the ordinance that removes camps and gives law enforcement back some powers and abilities to enforce the law. So if I could switch over to the organization No Camp Missoula, we are truly a grassroots movement. It started right away with one of my neighbor's wives. She was out posting signs before we even were an idea. And then neighbors got together. Some neighbors contacted me after the Missoulian story because my name was mentioned. Somebody else came in. The guy was a huge fundraiser for us. I mean, he wouldn't take no for an answer when he'd go out and get money. We have a Facebook group. It's closed. We don't want homeless bashing, so you have to answer a few questions to get on it. Our website is nocampmissoula.org. If people have a question, they can email us at nocampmissoula@gmail.com. We have dozens of volunteers that work tirelessly. We had one young lady contact us, and she says, I have a petition, but I don't know what to do with it. So we gave her our petition, and she went out and got close to 60 signatures going door to door and talking to people, which I thought was really brave for this young woman. And I was at an event, and somebody said, what? I've been gone all summer. I didn't know that they were allowing this. And that's kind of the reaction we've had from the public. During the summer when this was rolled out, a lot of people had been away on vacation, and it was never on anybody's radar. Great Falls doesn't allow camping in their parks. I was telling my brother about it, and he lives in Great Falls, and he goes, that's insane. He says, no, and that's what we're hearing from most people. There are a few people that think it's okay, and we've heard from them. We've had some not so quite nice emails.
So, so if folks want to contact you, email address, website, please.
Website is nocampmissoula.org. You can sign the online petition there. And then the email is nocampmissoula@gmail.com.
Got it. David, it's been a delight talking with you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me today.
And best of luck to you. Thanks for sharing that information. And thanks for all of your calls, everybody. We appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Nick, what's coming up on tomorrow's fabulous program, sir?
We'll have the Mansfield Center. They rescheduled for tomorrow morning at 8. We'll have Reverend Nelson B. Rivers in town for a dialogue. He's a prominent civil rights leader and VP of the National Action Network. And then Mirdad Kia will be with us for the second hour with a scholar from Lebanon.
All right. So, yes, indeed. Wow, it's going to be a busy week. And, of course, a week from tomorrow is Election Day. So I hope you're getting geared up for that. And I know we are here at KGVO. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.